All right, in this video, I'm going to get us started with the next unit that we do. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is I want you to go to our Blackboard course and click on Course Documents. And when you do, so over here in Course Documents, this is where I can post Word documents or other handouts from class. I can't get those posted easily in the assignment area of my math lab, so you'll find them over here. First thing I want you to do is, if you have a printer, to go ahead and pull that up, okay, and open up the plan for solving linear equations. And I'm going to be using that during this video, okay? All right, I'm going to shut that one down because I already have one open on that. All right, but before we start that, I just want you to have the big overview for the Chapter 2. Okay, so that's our next unit. We're dealing with Chapter 2. And so in Chapter 2, one of the big ideas is just on solving, sorry, let me go back here, trying to get the red pen, is solving linear equations in one, we're not doing two yet, in one variable, okay? All right, so this is covered in 2.1 to 2.3, okay? So I've got that broken up in my math lab so that we start off by looking at just kind of basic ones. So 2.1, you do ones where you just have something being added or subtracted to your variable. Things like x plus 3 equals 8, that type of thing. Okay, then in 2.2, we'll have problems where something is either divided into your variable, things like that, or you might have something like this that you're trying to solve, okay? And then 2.3, I split that one up a little bit. This one's really important, into the ones that are like basic types, really important to be able to solve something like that, okay? But then we get into, okay, yeah, but what if I have variables on both sides? Okay. And what if I throw some distributing and that kind of thing at you? What if you have something like this going on and you have some parentheses and all? Okay. And then we look at, what if there are problems with fractions in them? Okay. Maybe something like that. How would you handle things like that? And also decimals. And so I'm going to do a video that covers these in a minute, okay? All right, and then once you know how to solve linear equations in one variable, then we can look at a few other things. Okay, so first off, I'm going to pull a few equations out of 2.6 that are called proportions. So they're equations in one variable, but they look like this. They can look like this. Okay, but we might as well handle them while we're handling the other equations in one variable. All right, so if we know how to solve linear equations in one variable, we could also then look at, well, what about 2.5, which deals with formulas? Okay, so that'll be things like, you know, if you had the formula for the perimeter of a rectangle, how could you rearrange that formula and maybe get W on a side by itself? Once you know how to solve a linear equation in one variable, you can rearrange formulas and make them useful to you, okay? And then another thing we can do once we know how to solve linear equations is we can look at solving linear inequalities, not equations, linear inequalities in one variable. Okay, so those would look like, let me squish this just a little bit. Those could look like something like 2x plus 5 less than or equal to 13 instead of having just an equal sign. All right, and then they can be messier than that. And then there's one more section we do, and this is one where we put two inequalities together. They're called compound inequalities. And we'll do compound inequalities where each piece might be a linear one. Like you might have x plus 5 is less than 8, or x minus 2 is greater than 9, something like that. Okay, and you have to think about this word or sometimes it'll have the word and you have to know how to solve that. Now I'm still contemplating, I may break this up into 2 tests rather than putting it all on one. I haven't decided yet. Okay. All right. And then let's go back up here to solving linear equations in one variable. I want to take you back to that problem we did early in the class about the movies. Where, do you remember the one where the movies cost like $2? And then there was like a flat fee. I can't remember. I think it was $13. And I asked you to complete a table, like how much would the monthly fee be if you rented 5 movies in the month? And so you would do, 5 times 2 plus the flat fee, and then you would wind up with 23 for the monthly cost. Okay. And then we talked about an equation in 2 variables where cost equals the number of movies times 2 times the number of movies plus your flat fee. Well, where this chapter 2 material comes in is when you're asked a question like, how many movies can you rent if your budget allows you to spend $50 on movies? Okay. All right, so what we did is we said, well, we could figure it out logically, but what we're going to learn in this chapter is we could let the 50 go in for C. Then we have an equation in one variable that we just need to wind up solving. And that's what I'm going to be teaching you how to do. And we're going to learn to take away the 13 from each side. And then once we do that, divide by 2. And we're not really having to pay attention to the context and to like thinking about what the 13 is or what the 2 is. Okay, and we wind up getting 18.5, so we could rent 18 movies. Okay, all right, so let me shrink this a little bit. I really want you just to kind of have the big overview here. So the chapter 2 material, what we're doing is we're working with equations in one variable. They're called linear equations, and the big idea is being able to solve them. Okay, and then we extend that idea to, well, what if we have a special type called a proportion? Or what if we are dealing with formulas? How can we use the ideas to work with formulas and maybe rearrange them so they serve our purposes better? And then what if we have, instead of equations, we have inequalities? How does that change things? And then what if we put 2 inequalities together? How would we handle that? It's really a very important unit, and I really want you approaching it correctly, really working to understand from the very, very beginning. Okay, so I'm going to stop this. This is just the overview for the next unit. Then I'll get into the plan, and we'll be do a video just on this 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3, just that beginning part.